Welcome to IGH Going Rogue. I suspect many of you are here because of the video I posted last night and because of the news that broke yesterday that the Mexican government has handed over custody of many cartel members, and many of them are already here in the U.S. We have Supervisory Special Agent, former ICE, Victor Avila back again to discuss this. I brought up the fact of Rafa Caro Quintero. He's going to mention some people that are very dear and close to him that he's happy are in U.S. custody. Victor, let's not waste time, man. Let's go.
Absolutely, brother. Thanks for getting me back on to discuss this. This is if you notice, it was kind of it kind of hit the news. It just kind of hit it yesterday. And I started getting a bunch of phone calls from a bunch of people and my sources. And when they were calling me, some of them are already en route. Some of these criminals, cartel members were already en route. And here's the thing I'm going to tell you the positives, the negatives, and the political ramifications of what's going on here. This is great. This is great news. These are people that the United States has been asking Mexico for extradition for a long time.
Decades.
Not yesterday. I'm talking about some people 10 or more years have been asking for their extradition to be held accountable and brought to justice in the U.S. Why? Because not only do we have active warrants for them, because the activities that they conducted from Mexico into the U.S., drug trafficking, human trafficking, money laundering, extortion, you name it, a bunch of charges affect us in different districts, right? New York, Chicago, Dallas, and a bunch of places. So, man, this list gets released yesterday, and who's on there? Well, the one that caught my eye immediately, obviously, we'll talk about Rafa Cara Quintero because I have something to share with you there. Yeah. But also the Zetas, man, the Zeta 40, I have them right here. The Zeta 40, the Trevino brothers, basically, and Zeta 42, the Z42, which are the founding fathers, if you will, of those Zetas, who are now had faction off to CDN, Cartel de Noreste, which their territory is right on the other side of Laredo, Texas, and Nuevo Laredo, Mexico. And just I think last week, as soon as last week, that Mexico had denied the extradition. So all of a sudden, they're put on an airplane and they're here, brother, and that's good. Some of these guys are older, but a lot of them, because of the heinous crimes that they committed, not only just in Mexico, but again in the U.S., they deserve to be brought over. Let me tell you other people there. One of them that I don't know why he's not getting that much attention, Vicente Carrillo Fuentes. Do you know who this guy is? I know you know who it is. Let me tell you who this guy is. This guy, Vicente Carrillo Fuentes, is Amado Carrillo Fuentes' brother from the Juarez cartel when I used to work in that territory. And the Juarez cartel was the most powerful cartel in the world. Amado Carrillo Fuentes, as you guys know, is the one that supposedly died during a facial reconstruction surgery. And his brother took over. These guys, these were the first ones that you heard of that were making money in the billions. There was reports that
El Cartel de Juarez. I mean, they were badass, right?
They were badass, man. And when the Zetas came in, and if you watch the last series of Narcos Mexico, it's kind of where it stops, where they hand over to Amado Carrillo Fuentes, the Señor Los Cielos. They call him Señor Los Cielos of the Sky, the Lord of the Skies, because he's the one that started using the airplanes to bring in the cocaine and everything else into the U.S. But Los Zetas are the ones that introduced the violence, and we talked a little bit about that last time. These guys are the ones that started chopping off heads and doing all this crazy stuff, and then forced the Juarez cartel to become more violent than what they were, and forced the Sinaloa cartel, the Gulf cartels, and every others to start doing the same thing that they're doing because you have to keep up. But it was those Zetas really that introduced that barbaric type of nature that we know of what these cartels have been engaged in: bombs, IEDs, you name it. And of course, Rafael Caro Quintero, man, you know, I was so happy for the Enrique Camarena's family. Enrique Kike Camarena, ex-DEA agent that was captured, tortured, and murdered in Mexico in 1985. Man, we've been wanting him for a long time. DEA has been wanting him for a long time. And Mexico, you know, politically, and a lot of different reasons have been messing around and with the United States when it came to
So,
his
so let me
capture for
ask
us.
you. Let me pause you right here because I want to spend a good amount of time on Cetas, and I want to talk about this because I want to give this justice, especially for Kiki's wife, Kiki's widow, because I think it's important, and especially for a lot of the DEA guys and law enforcement, guys like yourself that have been victims, that have fought these guys, that have been involved with these guys, you know. So Guadalajara Cartel gets created, right, by Miguel Ángel Félix Gallardo, by Fonseca, by Caro Quintero, right? It gets disbanded, right? Fonseca and Gallardo go to prison, and so does Felix Gallardo, right?
Right.
How come they're giving up Caro Quintero and not Felix Gallardo or Fonseca?
Felix Gallardo was already extradited to the U.S. and finished his sentence and was deported back to Mexico.
Okay, there you go.
That's a really good question. Why wasn't he then put in custody in Mexico? Right.
Right.
You would think all these guys would have an active warrant in Mexico if they had never done any time.
Right.
Maybe the Mexican government considers the time that they did in Mexico already as time served. Whatever. Either way. Gallardo's done. He's 79 years old. Yeah. He's still around. Believe me, these guys, just because they're old doesn't mean that they lost their contacts.
Well, he was known as the Godfather, right? The boss of bosses, right?
This is the guy that wanted the criminal cartel organizations to become one.
Yeah, and he made it, right? He turned it into one. He
initially he did, and then of course the turf wars just didn't allow it, right? Yeah. Sinaloa says no, we're going to have the Tijuana corridor, Arizona. Yeah. Juarez and Amado Carrillo said, no, we're having Juarez, El Paso, and then it's now the way down the line to Texas.
And that's going back to what you said yesterday, is that you had heard that, maybe they give each other up and they cut deals with the U.S. military, right? And they're not going to band together and fight together, right?
They're not. And because they're not loyal to anybody. They're loyal to themselves. And so one of the things that are negative about it is like, why did Mexico wait so long to give them to the United States? They could have extradited these guys a long time ago, and they didn't. And I'll tell you why. It's because just a couple of days ago, you and I talked about this. The Mexican government has been in diplomatic talks with the U.S. a lot. Yeah. As a matter of fact, there was a Mexican delegation.
And high pressure talks too, by the way.
Yeah. And they've been negotiating to see what's going to happen. Two things happen. One, Mexico releases all these guys, gives them to the U.S. like in a show of look what we're doing in favor of the United States. But then another thing, if you pay attention yesterday in the news, in the middle of all this, President Trump said that the terrorists are scheduled to go on next week, and I'm going to tell you why he said that. Why I believe he said that. This is not enough. Yeah. Mexico doing this is too little, too late. Yeah. Although, as great as it is, it's kind of bittersweet because, well, these guys were already in custody, and maybe Caro Quintero was still functioning out of the prison. Whatever. There are so many new cartel members. These guys are the OGs, if you will, right, of the cartels. Yeah. What about all the active ones? What about all the Mayos and the Chapitos? What about them? Yeah. Those are the ones that are creating havoc right now.
And that's what we were talking about. That's what we were talking about last night, right? That's what you were saying last night is, okay, this is great, but what about the current people? What are we doing about the current ones, right? And that, I think, is going back to our conversation on Wednesday, is they're just too compromised, and they're not going to give them up, so they're offering protection. They're giving up the old guys to protect the new guys, right?
It's kind of look how good we look by cooperating with the U.S. Remember, I told you there's been a lot of seizures in Mexico, and they have gotten illegal aliens and stopping them and all that good. I don't think President Trump is going to take it and say, "Oh my God, Mexico's great, they did it." I don't think so, bro. Uh-oh. I think this is not enough, and the terrorists might happen, but. Let me show you a story that somebody sent me. I don't know if it hit the news or not, but when it came to Kike Camarena, his son, Enrique Camarena Jr., has his dad's handcuffs. And he gave them to the one of the agents in New York when he landed. And they
because he landed last night, right?
Handcuffs on Rafael Caro Quintero, bro. How
that's
cool is that?
Awesome, bro. Yeah, so Rafa landed last night in New York. So they put on his dad's
They put on his dad because they're gonna transfer him. He's not gonna. I'm not sure where he's going. They told me there, but he's not. He's gonna go from New York to somewhere else. And what a cool thing to do. And so great for that family. They've been fighting for that justice for a long time. DEA has done an incredible job in memorializing Enrique Camarena all these years. Even at the U.S. Embassy in Mexico. Conference rooms named after him. As a matter of fact, they named a conference room after Jaime Zapata.
Yes.
This month in February.
That's awesome, bro. That's awesome.
But
Congratulations.
Los Zetas, bro, they got dismantled after our attack. They kind of got broken.
Well, how did they start? How did they start? Because they started as enforcement for El Golfo, right?
El Golfo. So these guys were security, right? They were the enforcers for El Golfo.
Yep.
They were well trained. They initially started training in Guatemala.
All former military, right? They were all former military, right? And police.
Former military, some special forces.
Yep.
Yes, the United States did train some of them here in Mexico. Once these guys, it was initially in Guatemala, then obviously down in Gulf, and then they realized, hey, we're doing all the dirty work for the cartel. We're going to do our own.
Yep.
And then they started taking over that whole area down there and became a rival.
Because they had all the muscle, right?
What's that?
Because they had all the muscle so they could take out the others, right?
Yeah, they had the intel, they had the muscle, they had the people on the street, and then of course the violence. I mean, these guys. When I was in Mexico in 2010, they killed 72 illegals, migrants in Mexico because they had extorted them. They had used them as prawns and everything that they use them for. And then they realized, well, that's it. We can't get any more money. We don't really want them. We don't need them. They lined them up against the wall and executed 72 of them. One of them survived.
Wow.
I think a Nicaraguan national. A lot of them were Central Americans.
Holy
and another town, there was a town, I forget the name of the town, San Fernando, I believe, in Tamaulipas. The official report is they killed like 120 people. The unofficial report is they killed 300. In other words, the entire town, because there was word that there was a snitch in there.
Yeah.
And so this is how they operate. They didn't go and look for the snitch.
They just wipe them all out.
We're going to wipe out the whole town, women and children and everybody.
Yeah.
And that's what brought them to the status that up until our shooting in 2011, they killed a U.S. federal agent. They didn't care. These guys they don't fear anyone. And so here we are with the 40, 42, and El 700, 100.
So walk us through the difference, through the numbers.
So these are the Trevino brothers. Miguel Angel Trevino are the founders, are the original capos, if you will, of los Zetas.
Yep.
And these are the ones, they've been actually captured for a long, long time. And they just would not give them up to the U.S. They have a lot of links to the U.S. They're heavily involved in horse racing. They were heavily involved in boxing.
Yep.
Very corrupt, by the way.
Yep.
They were very heavy presence in Dallas, Texas, Atlanta, Houston, East Texas, believe it or not. And people like, what the hell are these guys doing on a Sunday? The two horse races, the one against each other out there, big old trucks and all these ranchers are like, who the heck are these people? Well, they're cartel, man. They have a lot of money and that's how they like to entertain themselves. Yeah. But so money laundering and all that is obviously here connected in the U.S. plus violence here in the U.S.
Yeah.
And so they've been wanted for a long time. This is a great extradition. I think Mexico is trying to kind of wash their hands a little bit, like, oh, look at what we did. We gave them to you. Yeah, we'll take it. But you really haven't put a dent into it. What we want to see is you help the United States take them out. They haven't ordered their military. Now you see their military out there shooting it out. Well, because, the cartel are very well armed and they send out a limited number. They send everyone, right? If you would send everyone and wipe out Los Zetas and CDN and Nuevo Laredo, then go down to Matamoros and take out Gulf Cartel, then go to Juarez and take out Juarez Cartel, La Línea, and Sinaloa all the way up to, that's how you would do it, right? Region by region, La Familia Michoacana and Michoacán, and so others. No, it's just kind of fighting here and there amongst each other, sometimes for territory, sometimes to see which either military branch, National Guard, or police is the one that's going to take over to get paid,
Right.
not to take
That's
over to wipe them out. You know,
That's right. It's the bribe money. So for people that don't know the Kiki Camarena story, there's some good stuff out there. The Last Snark that Hector Bayeraz have really pushed on Amazon Prime. If you go and you go scour the internet, there's a lot of information out there. There's a journalist who wrote a book, Desperados, that NBC came out with, Drug Wars, a Camarena story. It's out there as well. There's a lot of finger pointing from special agents and the DEA, including CIA people, that say the CIA gave up Geeky because of the Iran-Contra stuff, and he was uncovering all that. We don't have to go there. I'm just pointing it out for the audience so they can go do their own research, homework,
Right.
and figure out what that all means. There's still so many things going on right now, like you were saying. One of the things that I want to bring up, because we're on Los Zetas right now, right? And they're extremely violent. I think it's very clear and evident now to everybody. I'd love for you to give some examples, like hanging corpses, beheadings, things like that from bridges. You can go into details like that if you want.
Yeah.
But also, I want you to help the audience understand that these people operate here in the U.S.
Yes.
And the reason I'm bringing this up is because Pete Hegseth said that he does not rule out military strategic strikes against the cartels in Mexico. And I can't emphasize again, because we talked about it on Wednesday, I think that's a fucking bad move.
And the reason he didn't say where, and that means it could be here or in Mexico, along the border, everywhere that these guys find themselves. But Los Zetas, when you understand the level of violence that these guys brought, first of all, they were highly sophisticated. And I tell you, because a lot of details that they exposed during our trial in 2017. 5 of them two went to trial, 5 of them pled guilty, and they testified. I was even surprised. For example, they had to check out the firearms that they used. They had to check out the vehicle, and they had fleet cards for gas.
Wow.
I mean, this is like a corporation, right?
Yeah.
It's like a company.
Yeah.
Same thing. Accountability. Hey, what weapon did you use? How much ammo, vest, whatever equipment that you needed. This is how they operated. So first of all, these are not just a couple of guys. Let's get together and let's form a gang. No. These guys have working from within the prisons, the street gangs, and of course in Mexico the corruption with everybody, police, military, politicians, and their intimidation tactic was violence. They're the ones that introduced horrific acts of violence that, frankly, you hadn't seen before. You would see shootings amongst cartel. It was very isolated, right? It was like they were just conducting their own business internally. But the Zetas, not only, this is a part that people don't understand a lot or hear a lot. They killed a lot of innocent people.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you say, well, let the cartels kill each other. Yeah, I think we all agree with that. But when they do that, they kill a lot of innocent people, innocent bystanders. As a matter of fact, they would grab and capture and torture and dismember an innocent person and calling them a rival cartel member just to send a message to the rival cartel member and say, this is one of your guys.
And when you talk about dismemberment, can you go into some details, or do you feel uncomfortable about that?
No. These guys,
because people here in the U.S. don't understand what that means, and that's why I want you to be a little bit. That's why I want you to be a little graphic, so people take notice.
So if you don't want to listen to this part, don't listen to it. But it's graphic, and it gets even worse. They will take a knife of a person that's alive, pull it down from their groin, and bring it up their chest all the way up and cut them open, kind of like an autopsy, if you will, while they're alive. Think about this. They will take a chainsaw and they make these persons. By the way, they filmed this. Why are we telling you this? Because I've seen the videos. Because they love the propaganda. They're the ones that want to control the information with the propaganda.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, they don't like when the media gets involved, because the media will expose them. That's why Mexico has the most journalists killed than in any other country. They don't like the journalists go out there and exposing the truth, but they love doing their own videos. So they will film themselves all armed, giving out messages, and then executing people either with a chainsaw, cutting off their arms, chopping off their legs, chopping off their head while they're alive.
I heard that. Well, not that I heard. I know that part of this process, and they did it with Kiki as well, is they pump them up with adrenaline to keep them alive while they're fucking torturing them.
Torture methods like you wouldn't believe. So the people that they capture, they want to get information. The torture methods that you can believe, they believe beyond waterboarding, electric shocks, many different types of deprivation, highly skilled military type, like bright lights, loud music, constantly 24/7 in an isolated room, things like that, that will they'll pour you in water and electrocute you enough to where you not die. They'll sometimes have doctors, like alleged in Kiki's case. Well, they're actually monitoring you so you won't die, so you will withstand more of the pain and the torture. That's what these guys are. They'll rip your heart out. I've seen the video of them.
Yeah. Tell us about that, because I thought that's where you were going when you were saying they cut you open. So please.
There's a different one where they literally just go into the person's chest. They rip the heart out, and the heart is still beating, and it's showing it to you. There's another one not so long ago. They've been going on from up till probably yesterday. There was one about maybe late last year. I think he was a candidate, because they killed 37 candidates, by the way. The cartel has in Mexico. Imagine if we had that in the U.S. Mayors and governors running for office and they'd be executed. Well, that's what happens in Mexico. And they did one of the mayor had actually just gained office like 3 days later. Then he went missing for 3 days, and they found him. They took his head, they cut his head off, and put it on the top of a truck and displayed it. I've seen videos where them playing soccer with a human head. Gosh, they're horrible. They've skinned people alive. They will burn them alive. Those are horrific videos to watch. I don't want to watch them anymore. I get them. They send them to me anyway. And when I see the beginning of the video, I said, this is like a torture video. I don't want to see them. This is beyond gruesome, evil. I don't know what other words to use. But I want you to think about the mentality, right? These guys, a lot of people tell me, oh, these guys must be drugged up. No, maybe they are, maybe they're not.
They're just psychopaths. They're psychotic.
They're psychopaths. Yeah. They have absolutely no compassion, none. They have no conscience for a human life or anything, and so they don't feel anything like you and I for life, for a person, for a human. They don't feel that. And so when you're up against that's the part that you need to understand, that you cannot take them for granted, because they're not afraid. Now, they used to be very precautious about U.S. federal agents in Mexico and Colombia, and they always wanted to avoid that. I think those days are gone. They're not afraid of anyone. They're not afraid of the Mexican government. They're not afraid of the U.S. government anymore. And so when that fear goes away, then it's a free-for-all. They'll do whatever it is that they need to do to advance their agenda, because that's where they live. That's what they do. Another thing that I talk about is culturally. In Mexico, there's a problem that the kid is born in Culiacan, Sinaloa, and his dad is a cartel member. His brother's a cartel member. His uncle's a cartel member. His cousin is a cartel member. And what do you think that little boy's going to be? A cartel member. Yep. And by the age of 12, he knows how to handle handguns and AK-47s. And so when he comes to the United States as an unaccompanied minor at the age of 14, oh, the U.S. hears unaccompanied minor. Oh, it's a child, innocent. No, he's a killer.
Yeah.
He's a sicario.
Yeah.
That means he gets paid $100 a week to go capture somebody, murder, and do these despicable things to them. A 14-year-old. Yes, you heard it. 14, 15, 16, 17. Considered minors in the U.S.
Wake up, people. Wake up. Listen to what Special Agent Avila just said. Wake the fuck up.
That kid, do you think is going to be placed at the middle school or a high school over your town is going to assimilate overnight and say, I'm an American boy and I'm going to, no.
I'm living the American dream. Yeah.
No, no, it's way. They have a different ideology.
Yeah.
That's why they're terrorists. So the ideology of ISIS and the Taliban is a different one. Maybe it's a religious one. Maybe it's a Western or culture one. The cartels is power and money. That's what they want. And they have there's a lot of glorification of this in the Mexican culture with novelas, telenovelas, the soap operas, the music. There was just a report yesterday or day before yesterday of a group. I forget the name of the group. Some norteño type group. They put a display. They call them mantas, right? Where the cartel uses these cloth type for messages, and they'll hang them at the top of a bridge to announce what they're doing. They put it on there and it says, to this group, don't you dare play in Mazatlan. If you play in Mazatlan, we're going to kill you. All of your group members, even the guy that installs the lights for the stage, all the way to the guy. So in other words, don't even try it. Who the hell cares? The cartel cares. They control the narrative. They control what goes out there. And when you have these group, they've killed so many of them that these what they call corridos, which are basically storytelling in a song. And guess what? They're passing messages with the songs from one cartel to the other. I tell you, they're hidden messages. Sometimes they're just blatant messages. But you would think, imagine if somebody here, an organized group, would tell Beyonce, don't you dare come and play in Houston, or Taylor Swift, don't you come and play in this stadium, or else we're gonna kill you and your whole staff.
Yeah,
it makes no sense, right? Well, that's what happened. That makes sense in Mexico. And guess what? He's not gonna play there because they know that the cartel doesn't bluff. Yep. They follow through. They're not the parent that says, I'm gonna spank you if you continue to play video games. No, they're gonna destroy the video game and the child. That's what they do. They follow through, and because people know that they follow through, they're terrorizing the people. Not just physically, by the way, psychologically, by extorting their businesses every single day. The guy shows up to get a quota. 15 every 15th of the month, every first of the month, you gotta pay me a certain amount. Why do I have to pay you? I'm barely surviving here with my little restaurant or whatever I have. They don't care. You're gonna pay a certain amount because you are in our territory. That's the way they see it. We own this land, this area. We come into a town and take over, and when we take over, that means we take over. We are the authority. Remember, Ivan, the 4 African Americans that went from South Carolina to Matamoros. 2 of them were killed. They were put in the back of a truck, pickup truck, and it was a person that filmed it, right? And it went horribly wrong because that video message was not their video, and it exposed them for what they are now. It was this big heavy lady that supposedly was a go-get plastic surgeon. No, she wasn't. These guys were in Mexico buying drugs, fentanyl or whatever, to bring it back to the States, to the Carolinas. But I think something went wrong. We don't know what went wrong, but they obviously underestimated the cartel. Yeah. Killed 2 of them.
Because a lot of people say, we'll just go down there, talk to a couple Mexicans and buy a couple keys and we'll be fine, and they have no idea they're going to get ripped off and butchered and slaughtered and dismembered. And thanks for the cash, by the way.
The reason I bring up that case is because never did you see the police. First of all, when the exposure came out of the Gulf Cartel doing that, who put out the message? Who caught the bad guys? The Gulf Cartel themselves. Yeah. They caught their own people. I remember that. Yep. Put them up there and arrested them all tied up and said, here are the guys responsible. By the way, they put a big message. I remember I translated it for some media outlets. They left it in the windshield of a vehicle and said, By the way, this is not us. This is not the Gulf Cartel that you know, because we are here to protect the people from the bad guys. That's what they love saying all the time.
Yeah.
And then they said these people didn't have the authority to do what they did, and that's why. Anyway, they basically were apologizing to
A big PR
but
campaign. Yeah.
I was thinking, where was the police?
Yeah.
The cartel killed them. The cartel caught them and turned them in. They were the law enforcement. They were everything. They were the court. They were everything.
Yeah.
Never did you see the police. Why? Because they own the territory. They control it.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm glad you brought that up. I want to talk about two things. One, that you're just going into this whole messaging ideology stuff that takes us back to Miguel Angel Felix Gallardo, right, in the creation of Guadalajara. But then I want to go right back to Los Zetas. How many do you think are operating here in the U.S.? And how dangerous that is, and why I keep on going back to this, how many are here and how dangerous the threat is here, because American people are just not used to it. I know a lot of people in the South are be like, oh, fuck that, bunch of Mexicans, we'll fucking shoot them up. Doesn't work that way. A couple fat guys with shotguns and a lot of beer is no match, is not going to happen. I don't care how fucking good of a shot you are. You will be fucking slit open like a fish and fucking beheaded. So, don't even fucking try and play tough, because you're going to lose. But Miguel Angel Felix Gallardo, right? Fonseca, Caro Quintero, the rest of the guys that created Guadalajara, right? If you remember, Felix Gallardo said, what was the reasoning? He's like, the U.S. has been taking our minerals, our petrol, our this, our money, our cash, our women, our all this stuff, our territories are for 100 years. It's only right that we take their cash and send them drugs and destroy their fucking brains and their fucking people and blah, blah, blah. How real is that? Because you mentioned about that kidnapping and how Cartel del Golfo turned them in and did all that and said, we're here to protect. Is that just bullshit?
I think they believe it.
Okay.
I don't think it's bullshit. I think they believe it, and they're very their allegiance is to Mexico.
Yeah.
Not necessarily like an American patriot with American flag. I love my country. I love the flag, and have allegiance to the United States. They have a type of allegiance, but it's different than mine.
Like Robin Hood, like a Robin Hood thing,
well, that's how they
con
want
los campesinos,
to
right? That they are there to protect the campesino.
I've seen so many videos of the guys all suited up, and the first thing they say is like, "We are not extortioner. We're not rapists. We're not here to da da da. We're here to protect." Excuse me, you're the ones that are actually doing everything you just said you didn't do. And so, of course they lie about that, but I think you're onto something here as far as the bigger picture is they have this type of allegiance, and maybe they're upset. But greed does a lot of things to you. A lot of times, in my law enforcement career, a lot of people that we caught, people say, criminals are stupid. It's not that they're stupid. It's that they're clouded. And they're clouded by many, many things. One of the things that they're clouded by is greed. They're not thinking clearly. They're so concerned with the money. They're so concerned about what's going on with the money, how they're going to spend the money, how they got the money, how they're going to distribute. They're so concerned with more and more and more, and this avarice, greed that they have sometimes clouds their judgment, and they make bad decisions. And power. The power is another one. So you got the greed combined with the power. All of a sudden, these people are not thinking straight. They're paranoid. Another thing is they're paranoid about law enforcement and all this stuff. And so they're clouded, and that's why they make bad judgments, which favors the police. And I think the Felix Gallardo's people, I think ultimately is very, they're selfish. That's what these guys are. They're very selfish, only to help themselves. And they started with pot, and then what did they think? Now, pot wasn't enough, so let's move into cocaine. And why? Because they wanted to make more money. And remember, when that started, it was Colombia that really controlled all that. Look at where we're at now, where it's shifted 180, and it's the Mexican cartels that control the movement. Colombia's still involved there, making here and there, and the heroin and stuff, but it's still It's the other way that they work for the Mexican cartels than the way it used to be before.
Now they're manufacturers.
They're
Right?
manufacturers
That's it. That's all they are.
suppliers.
Yep.
And the Mexican cartels take care of everything else.
Yep.
But the presence of the cartels in the U.S. is something that is going to have to be looked at a lot more now, because
So
there's
let's
a
do
lot
that.
of crime.
Let's do that. Walk us through the presence of the cartels in general, and then if you can pinpoint Los Zetas.
So Los Zetas, you asked me how many are there. We don't know. We don't know because there's different types of Los Zeta cartel members, right?
Yep.
You got the businessman, you got the lawyer, you got financiers, you have bankers, you have real estate people, you have mortgage people, you have those type of people. They're Zeta cartel members. They're absolutely they're controlled and they're paid and they're on the payroll. They might even have a job. They might have a 9 to 5 job. It doesn't mean that they're not cartel members. Some people think that some of these people, that's all they do. No, you might just help them out once in a while when they need something, and they pay you. That makes you a Zeta cartel member. So, and then of course you have the actual
muscle.
Well, the one that's actually working with the local gangs in Texas and Georgia and Denver and all that to distribute their product. They're there to oversee that the product is distributed just like any supervisor would, right? Yep. At any corporation, at Amazon, like we talked about, yep. Or any business, manufacturing business, you're going to make sure that everything, that the line is accounted for, that nothing is missing, that the quality of whatever they want.
So that's your supply chain manager, right?
That's right. That's right. And that the vehicles that are driving the dope get through there, and who you're gonna hire first, and who you're gonna hire next, and make sure it's not an undercover agent. All these things. You got that person, right? The coordinator, if you will, and then of course you have the enforcement guys, the guys that are there. These are just killers, sicarios. By the way, they actually have promotions within their organization. They start off as lookouts. That's the other one. That's the lowest of the toll. You have a lookout. This is a 14-year-old kid who's a lookout. Who is this 14, 15-year-old kid? Well, he's a middle school, high school student, and he works for Los Zetas. Why? Because his brother worked for Los Zetas. Maybe the brother's an enforcer, and he starts off as a lookout. And all he has to do is let him know when there was any kind of activity that just doesn't seem right, whether it's at the school, whether it's at the mall, wherever that little kid hangs around. Boop, cell phone. There's there's police here. They have people everywhere. That's why they know, especially in Mexico, but also in the U.S. So then that kid guess what he strives to be. He strives to be promoted to a sicario, because now they're going to pay him a couple of $100 a week, and all they're going to do is order them to kidnap people, to rape people, to extort people, and eventually to kill people. That's it. That's his job.
Wow. That's
his job. When he graduated if he even graduated from high school, that's his job. And then you're such a good sicario that you're going to be head of the estaca. That's what they call them. An estaca is a head of a group. Just like a group supervisor, like I was. Yeah. I got promoted to a GS, a group supervisor. Now I oversee 10 agents. Well, now you got the guy from the estaca overseeing 10 cartel members, like the ones that attacked us. By the way, I don't know if I shared this with you last time. They were not dressed in all black and military attire, painted with cover face, nothing. These guys were jeans, t-shirts, very fit, short, very well groomed, military stuff, very disciplined. They knew how to handle those weapons. And so a lot of people sometimes think that they're very, because they have their elites. So just like the police, I as an agent would do arrest warrants, search warrants, suit up and all that. But then we had a high risk warrant. Well, we would call our SRT, what we call the special response team, or you heard them as a SWAT, the heavy duty guys, right? Yeah. And they would do it for us. Well, the cartel has those guys too, and those are probably the videos that you see. I show a lot of those as well, and these are like heavy duty military. And then when you see the pictures, when I see the equipment and the weapons that they're wearing, that they're showing, like This is state of the art. And you know what I think about, Ilan, every time I see that? I think money. All I see is money because I know how much that costs. It's very expensive, and that's just one guy. Then you talk about the armored vehicles. Then you talk about the fleet vehicles, the pickup trucks, the cars. Think about it. Now, look at where he started. Now, this is the corporation. So how many people? Well, you start adding people at every division of their organization, and then you have the St. Louis division. You have the Chicago division. You have the Atlanta division, Houston, Dallas, the same thing. And so now all of a sudden you're like, well, then they're everywhere. That's right. Another one that they extradited, before I forget, El Gato.
Oh, wow.
El Gato is the one that ordered the murder of a rival. He was pissed off because he was an attorney, gang member, cartel member. I forgot the guy's name. He was killed in Mexico when I was there. They executed him in South Lake, Texas, a real nice town of about 30,000 people. In the middle of a town square in front of Victoria's Secret, he was with his wife. They had been following him for over a year, and they finally got tired of following him, and that they had the chance. And right there, 2 hitmen came up and shot him and killed him, and on a Saturday afternoon, right there in front of everybody. They didn't care. That guy that ordered the hit from Mexico was extradited as well yesterday.
Wow, that's amazing. That's crazy, bro. So, if you were to measure the threat level here, what would you rank it as? A 4, 5, a 7?
The State Department does this. They have up to level 4. No one's a level 0. It starts 1, 2, 3, 4. When I was going through, they call it SOS training through the State Department. Everybody's going to go overseas, has to go through this training. As a matter of fact, if you're going to take your spouse where you can take your family, they have to at one point come in to get trained themselves because of all the crap they're going to see and possibly hear. So one thing that I'll tell you really quick that they say right away when you show up. First of all, they tell you as soon as you get to whatever country you're going to, you're not going to be better looking. You're still fucking ugly, and you're not going to be because all of a sudden you're going to be approached by a lot of women. Why? Espionage, right? They're trying to get intel. Anyway, I just had to throw that in there.
Yeah.
But that SOS training, what they do is they're preparing you. So when you go to Mexico, whatever, but they do it according to the level, right? Afghanistan, Iraq, Baghdad, Iraq, level 4, level 4, level 4. Singapore, level 1. Canada, level 1. Mexico, level 4.
Yeah.
Critical, level 4. And you know what happened when I was going to training? Half of the room that was there is a big room. A bunch of young guys. They were all going to Baghdad back then. And I'm like, oh shit! I'm like, you guys going to Baghdad to Iraq? Yeah. And they're like, where are you going? I said, I'm going to Mexico. Oh shit! that was their reaction. Oh, they were more concerned about me.
Yeah.
Maybe they knew something, right? They were rightly so, because Mexico is a critical level 4. So now, going back to your question, what level is that? I don't think we're a level critical 4 as far as their presence here, but we're definitely a 2 or 3, for sure. Maybe a 3 of their presence, because.
And I agree with you. I agree with you, by the way, on that. I agree with you that. Yep.
They're good at hiding and incorporating themselves. I'm telling you again, they look like you and me. You're not. Yeah. Oh, here he comes, and that's the cartel member. No, some are boisterous, and some you'll see that. And as a matter of fact, the ones that are boisterous are a lot of wannabes, and those are not the real ones. And so that's what makes it even more difficult to track them down. And a lot of crimes. This is one thing that the local PDs and investigators know. When they come across a crime, they're like, this has cartel written all over it, but it's not reported that way. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of times not reported officially on the reports. Why? Because it brings a lot of ramifications financially. No town wants to be known for having cartel members in their town. They just consider it, it was just another murder from a crazy nut.
And also the truth is, a lot of these guys are scared, and they don't want to use the word cartel or even put it on the radar because they don't want to be the guy that somehow somebody comes after for retaliation. That's why you see it in the media too.
Remember the movie, which is a big shocker, a big impact for me, End of Watch.
Yeah.
This one came out, I think, in 2000. 2011 or around there. The two LAPD cops, they kind of start getting snooping around, and then they tell them, "Hey, this is Cartel you're dealing with," and they didn't give a shit. They end up being executed. Horrible movie. When I watched that, it really triggered me. But that you're right. A lot of the locals, these are local PD cops on the beat, man. They're there every single day. They know them. They know the bad guys. The bad guys know the cop by name. And then sometimes they build these rapport relationships of, I know what you do and I know what you do. And I'm telling you, it's a dangerous world, and they understand it.
Yep. I know you got to go, man. I appreciate it. You're the man. You know, it's crazy. And on that note, it is despicable what the left is doing by doxing ICE agents. Absolutely horrendous. I think.
You talk about dangerous. What are you trying to do? Kill us? Are you trying to kill one? Because that's who do you think is going to get the information? The bad guys are going to get the information.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying
have
is
to deal with that on a daily basis anyway.
They should be prosecuted. They should be at least spend some time in jail, because that is extremely, extremely dangerous. Victor, you're the man. You're the boss. Thank you so much for coming back so fast. And I know I'm going to see you again very soon, because, like you said on Wednesday, everything changes every single day by the minute.
Wasn't that true?
Yeah.
We were just talking about, like I said, hey, it's changing by the day or the hour. Boom, here we are.
Yeah. Awesome, brother. I appreciate it, man. Have a great weekend. I know you're doing a hit. Kick ass.
We'll be in touch, bro.
All right. Thanks, pal. All right, guys. Hopefully it was everything we hyped it up to be, and a lot more. We're going to have Victor coming on more often and really honing in on this stuff. This is not going away. Obviously, you're seeing a lot of activity happening now. Mexico is trying to play a little nicer, but like Victor said, it's all bullshit, because at the end, we've been requesting these people for decades, in some cases, a decade. But what about the current guys? What about the current cartels? What about the current people that are operating over there and their organizations over here? What is Mexico doing to help the U.S., the Trump administration, ICE, Tom Homan, to curve that, to capture them? Are they collaborating? Are they providing intel? Or are they just fucking sending smoke signals and bullshit? I guess time is going to tell. Time will tell, because it always does. And we're going to be following up. We're going to be following these stories. We're going to be, we have access to a lot of great information, a lot of great intel, a lot of good sources out there. And we're going to keep on bringing these stories forward. Hopefully you guys keep on coming back. Share it with your friends. Follow us on all the networks. We're on, if you want to watch the video, we're on Rumble. We're on YouTube. If you just want to hear the podcast, we're on every single platform: Apple, Spotify, iHeart, Amazon Music, Audible, Pandora, Spreaker, Stitcher, you name it, Podbean, I don't know. There's a million out there. We're on every single one of them. Just look us up, IGH Going Rogue. Have a great weekend, guys. We'll see you Monday. Good stuff coming, and probably a lot more of this shit. Take care.